Joined now by Jenna Ellis, who teaches constitutional law at Colorado Christian University. I know that you see this Masterpiece Cake case as a free speech case for people of faith. What is the specific carve-out that you would like to see the court find here?
I would really like them to see that this case is about the government not compelling individuals to participate in speech or events that fundamentally goes against their freedom of conscience.
So who would qualify as somebody who could be exempt, and what kind of activities?
Any creative professional or anything that would require someone to actively participate in speech that goes against their fundamental freedom of conscience. It's important for absolutely every individual, regardless of really their vocation or any other aspect, but this case is particularly about creative professionals that use their skills and talents to actively create art and to put that together and to participate in an event.
See, that seems like a pretty wide net then. So we're no longer just talking about people who have a religious concern about gay marriage. Talking about other religious beliefs, and anybody who considers themselves to be creative, that would be a pretty broad swath of people.
It is, and that's what's really important about this case that I think has been misframed in the media, is that this is just about religious Christians. It's actually not. Tolerance needs to be a two-way street, and so, for example, if I went into Jack's cake shop as a Christian female and asked him to create a cake for a same-sex wedding, he would deny me. This isn't about anti-discrimination, it's about participation in an event, and it's also about people who do appreciate and believe in gay marriage having a right to decline to participate in messages that they disagree with as well. Tolerance must be a two-way street to preserve and protect constitutional freedoms.
I'm guessing, though, that you would also agree with what the late Justice Scalia wrote back in the 90s when he was looking at religious carve-outs here, there, everywhere else, people coming in looking for a religious carve-out for things that are considered child abuse or torturing animals. And he said that it would be anarchy if you start carving out exemptions for everybody. Why is this not the start of that?
Well, there's always a slippery slope that you can look to the most extremes, and that's what I anticipate the court will do tomorrow, is try to take some of those examples and say, okay, where should the bright line distinction be? We see that all over constitutional law, but here we have to look at the fundamental protection of the Constitution that's codified in our First Amendment that protects not only freedom of speech, but free exercise of religion. Our beliefs are meaningless unless we are able to freely exercise them, and our Constitution and our government is mandated to preserve and protect that. We are a wide margin away from getting anywhere close to that slippery slope with saying, government, you cannot compel me to participate in an activity or in speech that I fundamentally disagree with. And that's something that the court absolutely needs to draw that bright line.
So I think people are hungry for practical examples. We've heard so many times about the idea of this cake at the shop, but I suppose the carve-out that you're looking for would also cover a chef who didn't want to participate in a same-sex wedding, right?
Absolutely, and there are actually a number of other cases that Alliance Defending Freedom, the religious freedom organization that represents Jack Phillips, they actually represent a number of other clients, including Baronelle Stutzman, the Washington florist, who declined to use her creative skills and talents to participate in a same-sex wedding. They represent a t-shirt maker out of Kentucky that declined to put a message that he fundamentally disagreed with on t-shirts. There are a wide variety of examples, videographers, a lot of creative professionals that use their artistic skills and talents in a variety of service ways that they shouldn't be compelled to participate in their industry and should be able to decline messages that they fundamentally disagree with.
Sure. So take a chef, who I think we've identified as a creative, who doesn't want to serve an anniversary dinner to a gay couple. Would that be acceptable?
I would think so, and what's interesting here is that the Colorado Civil Rights Commission, the ones who initially found against Jack Phillips, actually allowed 3 different cake bakers here in Colorado to decline to make a cake that had an LGBT, an anti-same-sex marriage message. So we're seeing that there are 2 separate distinctions here, and again, we need to have some consistency from the court.
Yeah, I know that there was that back and forth. If I could ask a clarifying question, though. So if I'm in a same-sex marriage and I'm walking into a restaurant for an anniversary dinner, how in the world am I supposed to know if the chef is legally able to discriminate against me and refuse to serve me that anniversary dinner? How are people supposed to navigate a world in which this carve-out exists.
It's about the event, it's not about the individual. And so that's what Jack has always made completely clear.
Sure, but what I asked you was, could a chef refuse to serve an anniversary dinner to a couple celebrating their marriage?
If that was something that was participating in that specific event, but say that you and a same-sex partner went in and just ordered something straight off the menu, it didn't use its creative skills and talents, it had absolutely nothing to do with the event itself, it was only about you as the customer, that's something that wouldn't be acceptable to decline.
So it has to be about an event in your mind. It can't be people celebrating something that somebody doesn't agree with based on their religious views.
It's about an event, but also about a product. And so it's about something that if someone is using their creative skills and talents to actually create a masterpiece, which incidentally is Jack's Cake Shop's name, then they should be able to decline other events. What's important that really hasn't gotten out in the media as well is that Jack has refused other types of functions as well, such as erotic cakes for bachelorette parties, Halloween cakes, other things. This isn't just about same-sex marriage discrimination. It's actually not about the LGBT agenda. It's about him refusing to participate in events and create masterpieces that the message is something that he fundamentally disagrees with, and that's something that our Constitution does protect.
So we know that the Trump Justice Department has weighed in with a brief in this case in which they said that protecting this carve-out for somebody like the cake baker would not apply to, say, a wedding venue. A wedding venue could not refuse a gay couple. I'm thinking back to my wedding, and my wife made this woman jump through so many stupid hoops to create an experience. How is that not creative expression, and why wouldn't a wedding venue be able to turn away a gay couple?
Well, and that's where the court will have to draw that distinction, and we'll have to parse some of those very difficult questions. But what's important in this case is to make sure that fundamentally, if there is a special participation, if there's a special creative outlet and using those unique skills and talents rather than just opening a venue generally, or Jack selling something that's, pre-baked cookies, which he sold to this exact customer previously. It's something that's not participating in an event. It's something that's simply servicing the individual like he would any other customer. That to me is the bright line distinction, because it doesn't matter who the customer is, it matters what the event is.
And last question, certainly same-sex couples are not the only people protected by Colorado's Non-Discrimination Act. Are you seeking a carve-out to protect religious free speech that would also apply to the other classes under that Non-Discrimination Act, say racial minorities?
Religious liberty applies to everyone, and that's the beauty of our Constitution, is that our government shouldn't compel belief or compel speech for anything that you or I disagree with. That needs to be that free exchange of ideas, and that's where Colorado Christian University believes that the church needs to step in as well. And when we can advance our faith, we also, the government should allow other people of different faiths to advance their faith also, so that we can have that free exchange of ideas. The government is not the constitutional operative and agent that should be seeking to quell public discourse.
Can you name me one justifiable religious free speech carve-out that would eliminate a protection for a minority in Colorado, for a racial minority? Is there a single religious exemption that you think would be acceptable?
So
in this case, the people who are being denied service are a gay couple. Okay, same law also covers minorities. Can you think of any religious exemption that should have protection so that somebody wouldn't serve a minority?
And that's, again, it's not about the customer at all. It's not about the characteristic of the individual. It doesn't matter their race, their sexual orientation, their gender, any of those things.
It's about the proprietor's belief, but suppose the proprietor's belief is that he doesn't feel like serving black people.
But that's different. The service, if it's the exact same service to any other person, and it's literally just a discrimination about the person, that differs between participating in an event specifically, regardless of the customer. Again, if I went into Jack's cake shop and asked for him to bake a cake to bring to a same-sex wedding, he would deny me. I'm not gay, I'm a Christian, I believe the exact same thing he does, but he would deny me. So that's where, again, it's not about the individual, it's not about discrimination on the basis of race, sexual orientation, anything, it's about the event and the product.
I'm just saying, his belief is about marriage. If his religious belief were about race, should there be a carve-out? That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, and that's something that the court would definitely have to parse, and that's something that I think that our civil rights acts have been very clear, that you can't discriminate on that basis, but you can carve out a religious exemption, and those are the tension points within our Constitution that we have to make sure not only is religious exercise protected, but also the rights of the individual.
Important to note here that Colorado is the reason why. This case involves Colorado because we're one of 21 states in which there's protection for same-sex couples and so forth. In the majority of states, he could have done whatever he wanted to in that cake shop in terms of this case. So, Jenna Ellis, thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate the conversation. Thanks for putting up with my voice.
Absolutely. Thank you.